All right, welcome back to video 2 of lesson 3. We finished off talking about the organelle called a lysosome, which is our garbage disposal of the cell, meaning that it will take in damaged organelles or even bacteria and devour them. Next, we're going to move on to peroxisomes. So peroxisomes are filled with basically these different enzymes that help to take in free radicals and turn them into hydrogen peroxide, which is the byproduct. Free radicals are highly reactive chemicals that a lot of times cause cancer. You'll hear about eating blueberries, for example, that help to get rid of free radicals. That's one of the things that they claim blueberries does, is helps to get rid of free radicals. So free radicals are things that can cause cancer because they don't have the correct number of electrons. Now, free radicals are kind of normal in our body. One of the ways we get free radicals it's a byproduct of cellular respiration, which is making ATP and metabolism. So we use these peroxisomes to kind of help take care of that for us. Next is the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is the bones and muscles of the cell. That's what we kind of call it. Now, it's not actually a bone and it's not actually a muscle, but if we were going to compare it to something, that's what we would compare the cytoskeleton to, is the bones and muscle. It basically gives the cell its overall shape and it allows it to have a lot of support. So there's 3 big components to the cytoskeleton that we're going to talk about. The first is intermediate filaments. Intermediate filaments are what help form those desmosomes that we talked about earlier. Remember, desmosomes are those proteins that are going to help kind of anchor cells to each other to resist any mechanical stress, so wear and tear on the cell. Then we have microfilaments. Microfilaments are often seen in muscle cells. Actin and myosin are these 2 microfilaments, and they help the cell in movement. They can actually change the shape of the cell. Then the last one is microtubules. Microtubules are kind of like the big support system of the cell. They're like the beams holding up the cell. So just like beams are holding up whatever building you're in now, whether it be a house, a library, or even at school, these are the beams that are really holding up that building or cell. Our last organelle that we're going to talk about are centrioles. Centrioles are kind of cool to talk about because they're only found in eukaryotic cells. And if you remember, you are eukaryotic. Prokaryotes are going to be our bacteria. Now, even being on top of eukaryotic cells, they're only found in animal eukaryotic cells. So you are an animal eukaryotic cell. You're not a plant eukaryotic cell. You're made of eukaryotic animal cells. So these centrioles are found within these animal cells, and they help to generate what we call the mitotic spindle, which helps your cell divide during mitosis. Now on to one of the favorite things I like to talk about, which is cell diversity. So remember how we talked about that picture of that eukaryotic cell really isn't a great representation of what cells actually look like. It's just to kind of educate and teach what the organelles do. But now we're going to get into the actual different cells of our body. They're going to be all different shapes and all different sizes, and they're going to do very, very, very different things. First, let's talk about a cell type called fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are going to make up all of your connective tissue. That's why the function is it's cells that connect body parts together. So these are going to be found in structures like all of your collagen in your skin. It's going to be in your tendons and your ligaments that bind bones together and muscles to bones together. These guys make a lot and a lot of proteins. So they have to have a lot of rough endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatuses in them, because remember, rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes on it, which help make the proteins, and then the Golgi modifies it. Because your connective tissue is made of proteins. It has these fibroblasts kind of embedded throughout it. So here's a picture of connective tissue right here. There's a fibroblast. There's a fibroblast, but all of this kind of stuff in between here where you don't see a nucleus, that is all proteins made by the fibroblasts. Erythrocytes, or red blood cells as you commonly know them. Erythrocytes are very round cells and they don't have a lot of organelles in them. They have a really short lifespan too. They don't live for very long. And what they do is they allow oxygen to attach to them so it can bring oxygen into your blood and around to go to your different organs and supply your different organs with oxygen. So really, oxygen attaches to this big protein right here called hemoglobin, which sits on your red blood cell. And then your red blood cells travel around in your blood, so this is a picture of blood here, and it dumps off that oxygen to your various organs and tissues. Then we have epithelial cells. This is a big topic in our histology unit, so I believe it's lesson 4. We're really going to be talking about different types of epithelial tissue. So it's really important that you get introduced to what an epithelial cell is. So epithelial cells are going to cover and line all of your body organs. So we find this in the innermost layer of your body organs. For example, your heart is all lined with epithelial cells. Your skin, your entire outer layers of skin is made up of these stratified squamous epithelial cells. Your entire digestive tract is lined with these simple columnar epithelial cells. So really, epithelial cells are lining all of your internal organs and even covering the outside of your skin. And it's really unique because they can be packed together in sheets and really become strong and powerful tissues that can resist a lot of wear and tear. Muscles, cells that move organs and body parts. You have 3 different types of muscle. You have skeletal muscle, that's the muscle that you're most acquainted with. Okay, that's a picture over here. This is skeletal muscle, okay, found connected to bones and allows you to walk and run and do everything you like to do. It has a lot of those contractile filaments with those proteins called actin and myosin that we talked about earlier. You have smooth muscle, which is going to line all of your internal organs and help move food through like your digestive tract. And then over here is a picture of cardiac muscle tissue. And cardiac muscle tissue is the muscle found in your heart that allows your heart to pump. All right, fat, adipose cells. So adipocytes are fat cells. So here's how you spell an adipocyte, and they make up adipose tissue, which is fat tissue. If you look at a adipocyte or a fat cell, this is a fat cell right here, it's clear, it's very round, and they can become rather large. So here's another one right here. I like this one right here because you can see the nucleus. If you see, the nucleus is right there, and it's pushed up against the side, just like on the picture here. So all of this in here is just oil. So it's really just storing kind of excess energy and excess nutrients that we don't need. White blood cells, or macrophages. Macrophages are a big group of cells. There's a bunch of different types of macrophages that literally are going to crawl through your tissue and find foreign invaders. These 2 pictures show bacteria. So this is a cool picture because of how they kind of made it different colors. But here's a bacteria right here. Here's a bacteria right here. These are your macrophages, or these big white blood cells that come and they literally just devour that bacteria. And if you remember, they have a lot of lysosomes in them. Lysosomes are going to be able to break down those bacteria and devour them using those digestive enzymes. neurons or nerve cells. So neurons are the type of cell found in your nervous system. So they're going to be really important for gathering information, transmitting messages, and controlling the things that are going on in your body. They have a very, very large plasma membrane. So they have to have a lot of rough endoplasmic reticulum to synthesize all of the membranes, all the proteins on the membranes. Okay, our cells of reproduction. So we're going to talk about two of these. We're going to talk about the male sex cell and the female sex cell. So first is the female sex cell here, and this is called an oocyte. Oocyte in layman's term is the egg. And I really like looking at this cell because you can really see everything pretty clearly. So it's a huge, large cell. It's the largest cell in the female body. And the reason that it's so large is because it's storing up a lot of different organelles. And the reason for this is because when this egg becomes fertilized, it doesn't want to spend time making more organelles as it's rapidly dividing. It doesn't have time for that. So if we store a bunch of organelles in there, right when it becomes fertilized, it can quickly divide to become an embryo. So it's a really large cell. Here's the nucleus right here. So that would be where the DNA from the mom is. And then all this area here is just going to be mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatuses. It's going to be just a lot of organelles so that when sperm meets egg, it can rapidly divide. You may have heard too of something called mitochondrial DNA. It's DNA only found in mitochondria, and it's a little different from the DNA found in the nucleus. Well, you only have your mother's mitochondrial DNA, and they use mitochondrial DNA a lot in forensics to help solve cases if they can't get any nuclear DNA. So you only have your mother's mitochondrial DNA because it's stored inside of this egg cell, and we don't find any of the mitochondria in the sperm. So the sperm is the male reproductive cell. The head here is where the male DNA is stored. So as you can see, it's swimming towards the egg right here. So it's going to fertilize the egg, and really all it donates to this egg is that head. So that's why all the organelles are stored in the egg, because you just the head kind of detaches from the sperm, and that's about it. That's all it gives. It has this really long tail here made of proteins, and it literally helps it swim towards the egg. So I really hope you enjoyed the cell diversity lecture. It's really cool because now we're going to be able to get into all the very specifics of our different body tissues and what actually makes up our organs. So thanks for watching the cellular organelle review and all of the cell diversity lecture. Go ahead now and make sure that you've filled out your note guide and you've completed your tasks for this lesson.